I approve. I'll hit the little OK button. There we go.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all for coming. So I will do a formal introduction. For those of you that I don't know, my name's Julie Lago. I am lucky enough to be a part of Able New Hampshire's mental health task force, and I can tell you that it is one of the best groups that I've been part of. A group of people that are truly passionate about helping to improve access to equal access to mental health care for people with disabilities in New Hampshire. And as part of the task force, we have been brainstorming for a while now to figure out how to access our community and get education out there to make sure that we're meeting the needs. And we threw around a bunch of ideas. We wanted to have a conference. We wanted to have a big conference. But what it came down to, and we kind of did a pivot recently, is we said, can we really throw one other big thing on people's plates? And the conversation was, I guess the answer from the conversation was no. Can any of us really handle one more big thing? Because we're not even sure if we can handle the little things right now. And we realized that there's so much uncertainty around us. And it's not just for families or for families of people with disabilities or individuals who have disabilities. It's for everybody. Everything that we're doing, no matter where you are, what you're doing, there's a lot of uncertainty. We're hearing it on the news, we're hearing it in the stores, we're hearing it at the dentist office. I mean, have you gone to a medical appointment recently where that's not the small talk that's brought up? I think we're probably all pretty tired. So, the idea that we came up with was to create a series. And I think it might have been Haley, but I could be wrong. But somebody came up with, I think it was Haley, came up with the idea of Revive and Thrive as the title, which I absolutely adore. And the goal is to support our community with their mental health during this time of uncertainty. So over the next several months, we're going to have different topics. And we want to be able to, the goal is to build a community. So not just sit here, and I'm not going to sit here and talk at you, but we're going to bring other folks in. So I promise you won't just have to stare at me the whole time. Though I really could talk at you for days and days, and I won't do that to you. But the goal is going to be to present on very specific topics and create engaging conversations. The more we create a community to support our mental health around this time of uncertainty, maybe the less uncertain it has to feel, or maybe the more supported it can feel. I want people to be able to come to this series with the intention of either participating, observing, maybe not being sure at all, and deciding as they come. So for those of you that are here or those of you that may be watching, if you don't know what you want to get out of this, or you don't know if you're comfortable participating, that's okay. Screen on, screen off, whatever you want to do is absolutely fine. But I certainly hope that our Revive and Thrive mental health series can really support growth of a community and a supportive community here in New Hampshire. And when we end the series, we have some ideas of what we could do with it. Give us a little bit, but we'd like to use all of you to help problem solve and create something pretty spectacular is our hope. So not over promising and under delivering, just stay tuned. So any questions before I get started? I have a very brief PowerPoint presentation for you just because I love some good slides and visuals, but really most importantly, I want to get those down and I want to have a good conversation. So any questions before I get started? All right, sounds good. So just a little bit about why I think that I'm qualified to present this to you tonight because who the heck is this lady thinking that she should talk about mental health, right? So I am a licensed clinical social worker. I've worked in community mental health for the last 13 years. And my specialty is in working with individuals with dual diagnoses of developmental disabilities and mental health needs. But most importantly, I'm a family member of individuals who have disabilities and a close loved one of many people who have chronic medical conditions and disabilities. Uncertainty doesn't just exist in our lives right now. It's existed for a long time, but it's amplified right now. So does anybody kind of feel it? We are, is it almost, does anybody kind of feel like uncertainty existed before, but we didn't realize that it was there before because it was just kind of the norm, but now it's like really, really there. Is anybody kind of feeling like that? Yeah. Yeah.
It,
Sheila, what are you thinking? Oh, into, yeah.
it feels like it's become, and unwillingly in my mind, wallpaper.
Yeah.
The background is just wallpaper of
Mhm.
the uncertainty is new uncertainties daily, weekly.
Right. And there are uncertainties that we face all the time, right? We don't know what the weather is going to be. Welcome to New England. You're going to dress in shorts and it's going to snow. There are uncertainties that happen all the time of, are you going to hit traffic? But many things happen throughout our day. We don't know what's going to happen, but we're able to pivot. There are many, many things around us right now that we realize are increasingly out of our control. Things that we're having to sit back and watch and wait. How many of you enjoy waiting?
As an autistic person, I don't like waiting and I don't like pivoting because originally I am presenting at a conference and I practiced with the person that I'm presenting with twice. And then they said, "Oh, well, let's throw this third person in because this other person wants to read a few slides." And I went, "Oh no, I have to pivot." And my sister Heidi, she lives in Virginia, and I talked to her on FaceTime. It's like on Sunday. She's like, "You can pivot, you can do it." I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know."
Yeah.
But I think it'll turn out well in the end because I guess the particular uh breakout session that I had I didn't sign up for it because I figured I already know about that particular subject. And then it was so popular, they said, we need to have it during lunch because so many people signed up for it. So then they
Awesome.
said, let's have everybody kind of more or less kind of
Right.
get the lecture, whether they like it or not, because we're delivering it during lunch at a conference. So once they sit down and eat their lunch, they don't have to listen to us, but hopefully they will and they'll ask good questions. And
Very cool.
then you kind of wonder what questions are they going to ask and do I have the answers? Because
So,
I've
and
only been with
that's
the council since January 2024, and I've only been a brand ambassador for less than that. So I don't know if I know all the answers. Hopefully I do. But
that's uncertainty for sure, Kelly, but you'll do great. So let's go ahead. I'm going to share my screen, and I apologize for my lack of ability to do technology easily. So, all right. Can you
I
all see
see it,
that?
Julie, because I know you're going to ask that. So I told you.
All right. So you can see it, Kelly? Okay.
Yes.
So today's topic for to kick off our series is remaining emotionally available without being emotionally compromised. And I will own I am just the presenter of that title, but one of our fantastic team members from the task force came up with this title. I take no responsibility for how wonderful that is. But I love this. So we as humans, right? So it can be whatever hat I always talk about the hats we wear. So um as an adult woman, I wear many hats. I just came from work, so I wear the hat of a social worker, as a director, as a colleague. But then I came in and I'm sitting here, and my mom is actually sitting right behind me right now, and I wear the hat as a daughter. And I point because we live next door to my mom, and I'm also a wife and a mother and a granddaughter. And a colleague, and a friend. I wear many, many hats. And somehow, with all those hats on, we are expected with certainty and uncertainty in whatever the world brings our way to remain emotionally available without being emotionally compromised. Let that soak in for a second. Think about all of the different hats you wear and how to remain emotionally available with all of those hats on and not emotionally compromised, especially when all these different things are coming your way and you want to do something about it, right? When we care about people, when we're in our valued roles, we're expected to be in control. What are we going to do about those things? And what happens when some of those things are just beyond our control? So that's what we're going to talk about today. So some of you will recognize the slides. I did some of these slides previously at another meeting we had, but kind of zhuzhed them a little bit. But let's just talk about mental health for a minute. We all have it. So feel free to unmute, but when we talk about what mental health is, what is mental health to all of you? What's the thing you think about when you hear mental health?
Or mental health, where you have to go to therapy, or like me, take medication every day, or else you wind up in the hospital. And I
Okay.
haven't done that since 1998, so I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, wonderful.
Care, self-care.
Self-care. Yeah, absolutely. For sure, Owen. Louis, I saw your hand go up. What are you thinking?
It's part of like your whole it's part of your whole person. You can't, you can't take away your mental health without including your physical health, and now everything's kind of tied in. And it's part of a larger system.
For sure. And just to let you know, I can only see a few of you on my little screen, so please feel free to just unmute and jump in. Does anybody else have an initial instinct when you hear the word mental health?
I wish they were more integrated, like Lewis was saying, physical health. I wish my physical health doctor, my PCP, which I'm going to be seeing tomorrow, was more integrated with the mental health center so that she knows what medications I'm taking from the mental health center, because they don't tell her, hey, we increased Kelly's ADHD medication. We increased her antidepressant. We did this with this. They hand you a form and say, these are the medications that we know you're on, but change anything if there's any mistakes. And I almost all the time I go in there, yep, this was increased, this was increased, this was eliminated, because I changed psychiatrist, or I changed like my my primary, well, my nurse practitioner quit, so then I got a psychiatrist, so then things changed, or things changed because of I go from one agency to another, so they have no idea what's going on. I wish they were more connected. That's what I would say.
So it sounds like,
or my dentist too.
yeah. So it sounds like when we talk about what mental health isn't, right? We talk about mental health isn't a standalone thing. So like you were both, like everybody was talking about, mental health is part of who we are. There's not much we do in our lives that doesn't impact our mental health. So I always give the example that everything I do impacts my mental health. Did I get enough sleep? Did I, if I woke up late, that's going to impact my mental health. I'm going to probably be a little bit cranky. You could probably ask my husband. He'll tell you a little bit more in depth. So I encourage you to not ask my husband. So I might be a little bit cranky. I might be rushed. Then am I actually going to eat breakfast? Well, if I don't eat breakfast, am I going to be hungry? Well, then if I'm hungry, what's that going to do to my mental health if I'm not feeling well, right? So then we're talking about the physical components. And for all of you, when you aren't feeling well, physically, you have a stomach ache. My daughter had a sore throat today. We were at urgent care. What does that do to your mental health when you're not feeling well physically?
Well, I know it impacts it. Like one of my sisters, actually two of my sisters have migraines. My
Yeah.
sister Heidi, the one that lives in Virginia, she says, I can't work on a computer because it gives me migraines. I'm like, well, that I think the job market just pretty much dried up for you if you can't be on a computer. Because it seems
Sure.
like every job that you have to do, you have to be on a computer in some fashion or another. So
Right. So Kelly, that's a perfect example of when there's something that when we're not feeling well, it limits our motivation, it limits our ability to do things. Those things impact our mental health. So mental health is part of everyone. It's something that we have to look after. It's real, it's complex, it's really important. And it's something that we can change. We can take care of it. We can look after things. I can look and say, if I don't want to oversleep, maybe I'm going to set that alarm. If I need to get enough sleep, maybe I'm also going to set an alarm to see if I need to go to bed at a certain time and set that reminder for myself. The things that mental health is not. Let's talk about stigma for a minute. What are some of the stigma words or things about stigma that you hear about mental health?
well, like it says on there, something to be ashamed of because
Mhm.
both of my parents have mental illnesses. My mom had depression and was actually my senior year of high school. I had to go to a treatment facility for a year. So therefore I was put in a foster home and my dad had bipolar. So it was like, oh, don't talk to the neighbors about it. Don't talk to anyone outside
Yes.
the family about it. It was something to be ashamed of, like it says here. And
Yeah.
and there's a big stigma against that and that sort of thing.
Absolutely. Sheila, did I see you almost jumping into? And to pull yourself up by the bootstraps. Oh yeah, like just suck it up, right? Like that's what people say, Owen. Come on, let's go, right? Not
Oh,
real.
The suck it up is a big one.
Oh,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, absolutely. So we think, oh, it's something that you can move past. It's a sign of weakness. Things like it says here, it's all in your head. Just you're fine, you're fine, you're fine. Something that we can snap out of. Well, you can just move
Say
past that.
that
And
you're lazy if you can't do something due to depression.
yeah. And Laura, I see your hand up too. Oh,
Yeah, I'll just say it. I just feel like sometimes with my own experience, it's like let it go, let it roll off your shoulders, no matter what it is
mhm.
or when it is.
Mm.
It's like, and that's the reaction to everything.
Yeah.
There's no acknowledging it and no acknowledging it. I'm not saying sit with it for decades, but
Right.
acknowledge, I think, is really imperative, and it's not given enough credit,
Absolutely.
even if it's
Validation.
2 seconds.
Absolutely. Validation is super important. What it isn't is something to be ashamed of, right? Or something that is to be dismissed because mental health, we always say mental health, like the slide says, mental health, we all have it. But sometimes talking about it makes people uncomfortable. Now, because it makes somebody else uncomfortable, does it mean we need to move on super quickly? Not if we want to remain emotionally available without being emotionally compromised. So let's talk about the impact of uncertainty, because the impact of uncertainty is what leads us to being emotionally compromised. When the uncertainty gets to be so overwhelming, it takes kind of hold. Have any of you experienced the things here? So just to do a image description, the slide says the impact of uncertainty, and then the words are worry, anxiety, agitation, depression, isolation, hypervigilance, hyperfocus, pessimism, negativity, low motivation, low energy, challenges sleeping, and then what else? But with uncertainty, what kind of things here, what stands out here in terms of this slide being relatable for any of you with the uncertainty that you may have faced in the past or you might be facing now?
All of them.
It's
Sleep
real.
is definitely one of them, you know.
Mm-hmm.
If the if you, especially if you like feel like you're not accomplishing enough during the day, you can lie to yourself to think you'll be more effective staying up later at night.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I have a few more hours, so I'm gonna do those things, but it winds up kind of biting you, right? You know, am I pros and cons? Am I taking care of myself or, you know, really weighing these things out? Yep. And we'll talk about that. And you're right where we need to be, Owen. We're gonna get to that whole idea of the oxygen mask. So wait for that slide. I'm gonna need you. Does anybody feel with recent uncertainties, so things like Medicaid, all the things that we're advocating for right now, right? So considerations of what might be happening with Medicaid or services, access to services, things along those lines. What are some of the things that you notice? Either it could be you, or do you notice the community experiencing here?
I think I have heard in people that I know in the community, in their voices, such a sense of betrayal and sadness and grief about that. We elected these people and I thought they were going to look out for us, and they're not. And like, it's the status quo was bad enough, but when you see that people in positions of power, authority, legislative or otherwise, actually doing things that feel harmful to the community, that there's that sense of betrayal and loss of trust.
Right. I think that's really valid, Sheila. And one of the other things that we notice is sometimes during periods of uncertainty, we get this spike in energy, right? We're going to advocate, we're going to let our voices be heard. And now we can use our worry, our anxiety, our agitation to be a bit hyper focused, a bit hyper vigilant, to increase energy. Sometimes have challenges sleeping as a result of that, right? But sometimes these things work a little bit to our advantage, and we're out there and we're advocating and we're at the rallies and we're writing the op-eds and we're doing what we're doing.
Or going to the budget hearing like I
Or-
did. I saw Lewis across the room. I was like, oh, there's Lewis. He's there. But
Ab-
it went on and on and on because I heard it went to like 10 o'clock at night. I was there from like maybe 2 o'clock because I had to go to my job, my dog job, disability health work advisory group. And then I went to it after. And obviously I had to get a ride up there and then I got a ride back. But I was there from 1:30 to 4:30 and it was like everyone was saying, don't cut this, don't cut this. And I'm like, are they gonna cut this? Are they gonna cut this? And I have lived in Illinois, Virginia, and now New Hampshire. I've never lived in a state that's been sued twice because the poor mental health care that they've been giving their citizens or whatever, because they had the 10-year plan and now they're on the 20-year plan, I guess. And then they had the patient zero or project zero to get people out of the emergency room. And I'm wondering what's going to happen if they do things with Medicaid, like just get rid of Medicaid, get rid of SNAP, get rid of Section 8. It's like, well, where are people going to live and what are they going to eat? And, how are they going to have their medical care if we have no Medicaid?
So
I
Kelly,
mean,
you bring up a really
it's like
valid point, right? We have all of these opportunities to advocate, and that is a big part of who all of us are on this screen. And we do that, we have this initial energy of no, this uncertainty, we're going to do something about it. But we have to find a balance because we have to remain emotionally available. And as we put all this effort in and all this effort in, and then we start, have you guys ever, like, You can only run so much. You can only go so much. And then you're saying, okay, what else? What else can I do? What's next? What's next? Before you hit that point of maybe that worry, that anxiety turns a little bit more towards depression and frustration, and maybe changes a little bit more towards low energy and low motivation. And maybe your changes sleeping aren't necessarily because you're staying up and doing all of these things, but your changes in sleep are because of the angst and the anxiety and the worry, and they're changing just a little bit. Or maybe you want to sleep but the low energy and low motivation are kind of taking hold. All of these things, the reason I bring this up is all of these things can be very real in different ways. So we can have all of these things, the impact of uncertainty can motivate us. In our worry and in our anxiety and agitation and hypervigilance and hyperfocus, well, that can drive us, but only for so long. And if we're not taking care of ourselves, it just starts to morph into, well, all of a sudden we go from emotionally available to everybody. We're going to save everybody. We're going to advocate for everybody. And then all of a sudden we're emotionally compromised because we have nothing left to give. Yep, Lewis.
One thing I notice is just boundaries have been more important.
Yeah.
There might be times where somebody will contact me and is in that, hyper focus, hyper vigilant state, and I'm in a low energy state, and it's really it's hard, and I sleep is becoming more and more challenging, a lot of these issues, but you don't want to let that person down, and you want to take advantage of that motivation that they have at times, and yeah, and that's just one thing I'll just mention. It's just the boundarying and knowing where you can, I guess where you are with that period of uncertainty, because there is just so much. Everywhere you look, there's something else. Just this week alone, I'm like running through the news, both federally and state and local, and still trying to keep my head above water with what I need to do on a personal level too has been, it's been a fun year.
It's exhausting.
I think that's such a good point, Lewis, that it's what we are tuning into, because we have to some extent, is the local, state, and federal, and then our own family lives. I'm also someone who has responsibility for the well-being of my 92-year-old mom. So I'm looking at her end of life stuff as well. And it's a lot. The support's needed in every one of those categories. And are we gaining them, losing them? How do we fight for them? How do we protect them? How do we take care of ourselves? So yeah, it's all those categories. And I remember when it used to be, okay, we can focus on state stuff now because it's budget time or it's election time and for just our state. And then, okay, it's time to focus on national stuff. And now it's all simultaneous.
It is
so strange.
And you bring up this is just such a perfect segue to the next slide. So what do we do? What do we do? And I don't have the answer for you. I'm not even going to pretend, but I have some good ideas, or maybe just some ideas. I don't even know if they're good ones, but sometimes we have no choice but to embrace the uncertainty. And that is the hope to remain emotionally available. I think it was Laura who mentioned it, that we just have to validate the valid. Sometimes we just have to recognize we have no idea what's happening right now. My best skill in my entire career as a clinician has been to say, you know what? I don't know either. Honesty goes a long long way. And to validate when people are feeling lost or feeling stuck, as a clinician, my job is not to fix things. A lot of times people come to therapy, they want you to fix, they want me to fix it. They want me to have that easy button. And I wish I did too, though that's not the reality. We can't always fix it, but what we can do is recognize what's there and where we can do what we can and how we can take care of ourselves along the way. Because sometimes there are just going to be situations that are beyond our control. Sometimes we just have to sit in the traffic. But I get the choice of sitting in the traffic with my windows down or my windows up. Is my music playing? Am I enjoying the silence? We have choices. And it doesn't mean I'm getting anywhere in that traffic, anywhere faster. But how I spend that time is going to be up to me. So I'm not telling you have to like all of the stuff that's going on right now. And I know that what I'd like you to reflect on too is it may seem that we're referencing tonight the uncertainty of the political climate, the what's happening in services and in so many other things around us. But I really want you to take a more global look that yes, that's something we can all relate to, but I want you to each take a second to know that it is okay for you to take whatever we talk about tonight and think about any uncertainty in your own lives and how you might be able to take some of the things we're talking about and take them. Sheila, I hear you. I have a 95-year-old grandma, and you were doing some of the very same things. And we all have things personally, right? All of us, we all have our personal things. So the things we talk about tonight, I want to make sure that you know that these are things that it's not just for how we address if we're going to turn the news on or off, but also how are you going to take care of yourself in just your day-to-day because you're human and you matter. So one of the things that we start with is creating a resilient mindset. Using that picture to look and say, is it change or is it a chance? We have 2, sometimes 3, sometimes 4 different ways of looking at pretty much everything. It's okay if your first instinct is to jump in and say, that really stinks. It's okay if your first instinct is, I can't stand this. I don't want to hear about this on the news anymore. It's okay if your first instinct is, I am tired. And using those and statements, I'm really tired and I'm grateful to be able to go to bed tonight. I'm really tired and I get to start over tomorrow. What are those and statements that you can provide when those negative things may come in? Because don't shut down those negative things unless they're not valid. But if they're valid, that's okay because you're allowed to be frustrated. And as long as those statements are valid, what is that and statement that is going to bring resiliency to whatever that thought is? So can anybody else think of an example of how you can create a resilient mindset? So even something that you've dealt with, you're thinking about recently, or something even, it could be even something silly.
This is more for like one of the other chapters that Abel does. We've been dealing with some transportation issues in terms of there are certain transportation issues that can't necessarily be solved on one of the routes. And we've sort of made we've sort of hit a limit to how much change we can do. And so, at least for me, I've sort of been trying to pivot some of my other fellow chapter members who are kind of stuck on the one sort of this system won't work into looking at alternative systems and like okay, they can't get you to here, so what if you had a coworker take you to a place where they can get you?
Right. Great. So looking at progress made or opportunities had versus instead of saying we didn't, going into absolutes. How can we see the opportunity? So looking at opportunity versus looking at absolutes. Oh, and I think that's a fantastic idea. Does anybody else have anything they want to share for that one?
I have a thing that I do to when I feel like I've had a setback or something I was hoping would go well went south on me. There's a song lyric from Joan Armatrading, the folk singer, and she sings a song, and it's an old saying, maybe from Indian tribes, I'm not sure. And it goes like this: some days the bear will eat you, and some days you'll eat the bear. And it gets me back in balance again, knowing that, oh, next time things will go well for me, and I'll feel like I ate that bear. And today it just so happened the bear ate me. It's a great song.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's great. So really looking at, it's really the idea of that picture, right?
Yeah.
Change or chance. It's how we look at it. It's the opportunity. You can flip the block. You can make it one or the other, but you always have the opportunity to look at it differently and to do it differently.
And that it's temporary. That's the thing that lyric does for me. It's temporary.
Absolutely. Everything is temporary. Emotions are temporary. And that's important for us to remember. And emotions have, I worked at a rehab for a rehab like where people go after they have a stroke or an accident or some kind. I worked there for a long time. And I would always say to people, emotions are temporary, but they have their place. So let them hang out only as long as they need, let them hang out as long as they need to, and then give them their purpose. So what is that purpose going to be of that emotion? So if it needs to be there, let it be there. And if it needs to be there and you need to feel frustrated, you need to feel angry, okay, let it hang out as long as it needs to. But then what purpose, what purpose is it going to have? Is it going to motivate you to do that advocacy? Is it going to remind you that it's taking up too much space and there's something else that deserves that space? Is its purpose going to be to remind you that you're exhausted? This took up a lot of energy and it's time to sleep. It's okay, right? But always focusing on my emotions are temporary. I'm going to give them the time and space that they need. And then I'm going to give them a purpose and then we're going to move forward from those things. Another way to embrace uncertainty is to look forward and plan with flexibility. So what are some of the things you can look forward to? What are the things that are within your control? Do some planning, but be flexible because not everything goes as planned. Most things, I have 2 little kids. Most things in my world don't go as planned. But set those things to look forward to. And these do not have to be big things. So what is something in your day that you look forward to?
First cup of coffee.
Caffeine and carbs.
First one. Yeah.
Yep. Oh, and I think you just said something, but it cut out.
You,
So close. What about others? What do you look forward to?
Time with my daughter.
Time with your daughter. Yeah, I hear that.
It's like, there's always these little moments, but you can't let some of these uncertainties kind of trickle in and ruin those moments. And I catch myself so many times if I am, I just can't wait to go to, hang out with my kids after a long day of work. And, my phone starts blowing up or the news goes on, and, or I'm just rehashing things in my brain. Like you have to kind of consciously separate those things because then it ruins those things that actually relax you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
As some people know, I like yoga. And I have an unlimited pass at my yoga studio. So I've stopped going to gentle yoga because this is good news, but my heart pumping function has normalized. So I can do vinyasa, I can do a 5K, I can do all levels of yoga. I don't have to just do gentle yoga anymore. And I think that's good because I think it's from all the exercise I do. And I also have a personal trainer I meet with twice a week. Even though he's, like, I don't know, I'm in my 50s and he's probably like in his 30s. He even has memory issues because I'm on my phone and it says buzzer board. And I said, uh-oh, I bet that's my trainer. We're supposed to meet at Planet Fitness at 3 o'clock, and there he is at my apartment trying to get in my building. I said, Dave, what are you doing at my apartment? You were so insistent we had to meet at Planet Fitness. I'm at Planet Fitness. You're gonna have to come here and meet me, and we're gonna work out for a while, and then after that, I'll just go to Hannaford and go home. But yeah, he even forgot. He's human too, even if he is in the mental health field.
And we're all human, right? So I think that planning with flexibility and to give people grace. We never know what somebody's dealing with on the other end. So we don't know why that person might have gone to the other place. We don't know. Somebody doesn't know that I accidentally, left my cell phone at home today. And that is hard. To know what might be going on in the background, or maybe there are stresses. But looking forward and planning with flexibility is important. One of the things I look forward to is my favorite pair of pajamas at the end of the day. So you can look forward to, it might be a thing, it might be an activity, it might be a person. But I would like for you to start thinking as we continue our time together, thinking about the things to keep you emotionally available. What are the things that you look forward to that you do for you? Now, Angela, being with your daughter, absolutely for you. I get it. I can't wait to, see my kids, as well. And then I also can't wait to put those pajamas on when they go to bed. There's that balance. So other things to look forward to. The things that are your favorite cup of coffee, Sheila. So it might be your cup of coffee in the morning, but is there looking forward and with some planning, I bet you there's a very favorite cup of coffee.
There's a favorite cup.
There's a favorite cup,
It's
right?
called the peace cup. How to find peace.
Yes.
My
And
peace
there,
cup.
absolutely. And Angela, there may be a time or a very favorite chair or a place that's where you like to spend time with your daughter, right? And so thinking about those things, so looking forward with a little bit of planning and a little bit of flexibility. But how can you put on your radar those things that help you remain emotionally available? So yeah, the things you look forward to every day, but making sure that they stay a top priority, and maybe you need that cup, maybe you need that chair, maybe you need those pajamas. Some days you need those more than others, and maybe you plan them for those days that you need them the most with a little bit of flexibility. Mine just happens to be dependent on laundry being done, so I really need to plan for something else because busy schedule. So being flexible with goals set. Set goals. Be kind to yourself. There is only so much we can do. I bet you everybody on the screen has been hard on themselves at one point or another. We all want to change everything. We don't like uncertainty. We want to fix it. Set goals, but be kind to yourself and give yourself permission to let things go. Give yourself permission, even if you can't let things go, I want you to give yourself permission to put things in the parking lot. The parking lot is that place that's right outside the window. It's still accessible. You can see it and you can go and you can get it later, but it might not be something that needs to be done right now. The goal can still be there, but are you breaking down that goal to be incremental enough to feel like you achieved something? Are you being kind to yourself along the way? Because if the goal is so big that it feels unattainable, well, you're going to get down on yourself. So are you celebrating your small successes along the way? And are you putting humble in the parking lot and patting yourself on the back occasionally? Because life teaches us to be far too humble and not celebrate our successes. Chances are most of you have accomplished many incremental steps towards goals today, but I bet you many of you have not given yourself enough credit. I'd put my salary on it that most of you have not given yourself enough credit with the goals that you've already worked to accomplishing today. So take a second and think about the things you did well today. You made it here, not super easy at 6 o'clock at night, but you spent this time on you, and I appreciate it. But that's a little homework for you. I want you to think about the things where maybe you deserve that little pat on the back. Recognize where learning can happen and embrace those opportunities. Everything is a learning opportunity. So we might not like the things happening around us and the uncertainty going on, but I can tell you, I've learned a whole lot in the last few months. I bet we all have. Would you say that even with frustration comes learning?
Definitely. And I've learned how much I do not like this type of uncertainty. I mean, I've really learned that.
I hear you, Sheila.
Mm,
We don't like it.
We don't like
And
it.
Yeah,
has
I don't
anybody-
like it. And then my therapist quits, and then another therapist quits, and I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna have a therapist from that agency because they don't know how to keep their staff happy. They don't pay them well enough, so they bail too quickly. So I'm probably might hopefully be able to see a PhD psychologist who was my therapist before I started seeing the therapist at Greater National, because she's still there. So I'm like, she knows how to stick around. So hopefully I did go for see a therapist so I could get on the waiting list to see a therapist. I
Mhm.
said, is so and so still here? And I looked her up and she's still there. So I said, I want to see her. And she was willing to learn about um continuum of collaborative care and bookends therapy. So I give her credit for that. Where my therapist that's leaving in June was not willing to learn anything about those types of things. So
Oh,
I'd like to see her again. Hopefully.
yeah. Oh, well, I wish you luck with that fit, Kelly. So recognizing the opportunity for learning, we learn what we're capable of We learn where we need to take care of ourselves. We learn what we want to tolerate and what we don't want to tolerate. We learn a lot about the people around us. A lot about the people around us. And we also learn how to embrace opportunities to build upon relationships and how to manage relationships. And that's a big part of embracing uncertainty and remaining emotionally available. Who can you lean on, and how might you look at relationships differently? Owen. Oh, you just muted.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
We can.
Yeah, okay. Well, this going into something I wanted to say related to what Sheila and Lewis said about boundaries, because I had a bit of an aha moment for using your hat analogy there, Julie, because I feel like in many ways boundaries are the hat hat hanger for us when we come home to switch our hats so that we can have a place to put them. And I think with that uncertainty, all those hat hangers of boundaries went away. So like we're carrying our hats with us as we go.
Mhm.
And I think that at least for me, I think boundaries are something that we have to sort of figure for ourselves, even if it's for ourselves, like no phone usage before bed or something like that.
Absolutely. And being willing to know when to take your hat off, right? To say, hey, that hat stays in the parking lot, and that's okay. And it's really hard to switch hats because right now they all impact each other. I think we're like, I don't know if you've ever, I think it's like a kid's book, but all there's I don't know, something, but all these stacked hats, right? There's only so many we can wear before they topple over. And it's really important that we find that balance. So, and I think that's a great point that you brought up. So we talked about accepting the things that we can't change, easier said than done. Being mindful, and being mindful of our emotion regulation. It is easy to let these things feel like they're getting the best of us. And like I said, it's okay to have your emotions. We need to have our emotions. They serve that purpose. But finding those things that help you regulate. So it could be some deep breathing. It could be going for that nature walk. It could be calling a friend. It could be sitting and being aware of those emotions and having to sit with them for a minute and then giving them that purpose. But being mindful, or doing a mindfulness activity, something that really helps ground you and then helps regulate those emotions. But again, important to help them find that purpose, a healthy and productive purpose. Sheila.
I was thinking that one of the ways to help with that regulation, it's often useful to try and depersonalize whatever the situation or the issue is, because you take it hardest when you take it personally. And in terms of my own emotions, I've been thinking of emotions as they come rushing in as actually pieces of data. Yeah. That inform me, that what am I trying to tell myself? It's a piece of information looked at objectively, whether it's anger or fear or anxiety. That's data that I need to help me take the step out of that reactive feeling. So thinking of it as data rather than as being swamped.
Absolutely.
But it depersonalizing as information that I need for myself. And that's how I don't like the way I'm giving it to myself, but it helps.
Right, taking the personal away from it and really kind of separating the facts from the emotions. And that is, those are some really, really great skills. And then leaning on your supports. So if you're ever having a hard time separating those facts from those emotions, or you need some support with doing it, leaning on your support and who's your support system. And that's why I'm so excited that we're doing a series like this to build a community around people who need to lean on each other during times of uncertainty and build some skills together and come together and have these really honest and collaborative conversations. So we were talking about self-care. There are all different ways that we can do this. So physical self-care, so exercising regularly, making sure that you're attending to your medical appointments. Super easy to say, oh, I'll call them later. I'll reschedule that later. But then we're piling on the things to do, and we're also not taking care of our physical health. Hydration and nutrition. Are we eating enough? Are we drinking enough? Are the things that we're eating and drinking sustaining our body in the way our bodies need to be sustained? Are we getting enough sleep? Are we getting quality sleep? Those are two different things. Enough sleep and quality sleep. So, are you giving yourself the opportunity to be comfortable when you sleep? Do you have your favorite pajamas? That's always my best example, right? But are you making sure that you are are you creating a comfortable environment for yourself, some place that's conducive for you to sleep well? My kids are convinced that they need this white noise machine. That's up to them, right? They love that white noise machine, and that's something that's really soothing for them. The reality is that they've slept in places that doesn't have the white noise machine, and they sleep just fine, but that is something that's really comforting to them. So who am I to identify what's important for their self-care? If that makes them feel better, that's something that we make sure to do. Emotionally, so we talked about mindfulness. So there are a variety of mindfulness activities, and if you need some resources, I can get those to you. Seeking support. So if you need some support, finding a therapist, finding somebody in your spiritual community, but seeking support if needed. We always say therapists need therapists. So taking the stigma away from therapy and clinical supports, it's important. And if we can support destigmatizing that, we'll come a long way. Journaling, writing. I know a lot of people that write, that draw, doing something creative. Spirituality, it's a huge part of self-care. Whether you are religious or spiritual, if you're not at all, that's okay. But that can be in prayer. Owen mentioned being in nature, doing yoga like Kelly does, but really just tapping into whatever you identify your spirituality to be. Self-care socially. We need community. And when we are emotionally drained, we isolate. It's just naturally what we do. When we're tired, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. How many of you say I'm fine when you're not? Anybody else? Because I'm real good at it. Okay.
There's not a lot of acceptance of when you say I'm not fine. And as being one of the older people here, I have certainly learned the value of saying I'm not fine. And then I learned to say something after that. So I will say I'm not fine, but I'm soldiering on.
There you go. And I appreciate the honesty.
Yeah, there's not a lot of welcome for that.
And maybe that's our responsibility as the group that came here today. Maybe that's the one thing we take on is a commitment to model a community that does welcome that.
There's a relief in saying that because there's
Yeah.
a cost to saying I'm fine when I'm not fine. So I would rather say the other.
Yeah. And our responsibility in joining a group like this is to take what we know and take what we hear and however we want to hear it and however you choose to hear what we're talking about tonight, and make a decision of what you want to do with that, however it pertains to you, and then figure out how you want to model that for others. And the only way we're ever going to break down stigma is to model for others. In every single thing we do, it's our interactions, it's our body language, it's how we share information, it's how we answer questions. So in my clinical practice, I use the word, I don't say, how are you? I say, hey, fill me in, tell me what's been going well. And then we'll talk about, so what else do we need to catch up on, right? But I want to grab some skills. And it doesn't mean that I don't want to hear about the other things. I do. But typically, how are you? Oh, great. I'm fine. Okay. Right. But what do we want to do to model for people? So Sheila, I think that's a great idea. And I think one thing I can do to model is how I would respond, thinking about how would I respond to somebody who says that. Maintaining social relationships. So not only outreaching people, because you want to be social, but outreaching people because you're thinking of them. Think about those people you haven't talked to in a while. Maybe you get the feeling that somebody could use a call from you or a message from you, just a quick hello. So maintaining social relationships is a form of self-care, but it's also helping others maintain self-care. Also, boundaries. So having the most appropriate boundaries for you will help you maintain that self-care. It's okay to say, hey, just wanted to say hi, checking in, but you don't need to commit to dinner. And you don't need to commit to a weekly dinner or, Sunday dinner every week. Joining community groups or just monitoring community groups for what you might want to be part of. Like, hey, you showed up tonight. That was awesome. Spending time with family, doing volunteer, following through with volunteer opportunities or working. So really finding valued roles, or maybe a valued role for you is gardening. Or doing something at home, finding those things that make you feel really positive. And I know we're running out of time because I told you we could talk about this all day. So how many of you have seen this picture before?
Yep, on the airplane, when I went to
Okay.
Denver and then I went to Ohio for another
Yep. So what does this picture pretty much tell us? So just for an image description. So this is a picture of 4 different squares, a woman sitting in an airplane seat, grabbing an oxygen mask that's dropped down in the 4 different quadrants, beginning to just incrementally going to put the mask on herself, and in the last quadrant, putting it on her child. So when you see this, what do you think?
It's counterintuitive. The instinct would be to put it right on your child. But then if you pass out, what good are you to your child?
Yeah. I have to tell you, this picture made me shake. It shook me to the core of my being. I flew many, many, many times prior to having children. And I saw this. Every time I flew. And I thought nothing of it. I said, well, of course you put your mask on first. That makes sense. And it made sense to me until the first time I flew with my daughter. And then I said, whoa, hold on. Everything that made sense to me, I get it. Fact versus emotion, right? We just talked about that. Fact versus emotion. That makes sense. You put your mask on first, you can take care of everybody else. But when you have somebody literally in your lap that needs you, your instinct is to take care of them. And it challenged me really at the core of my being. I think probably because I am a clinician and like this really, gets me going. I've told people for years and years, I've used this analogy. Put your mask on first. Oh, yes, it makes sense. Until you have to do the internal struggle of what do you mean? I have to put myself first. I have somebody I absolutely, undoubtedly would put first before anybody else. And in order to do that, if I go back to fact versus emotion, I have to put myself. We can't argue it. There's not a whole lot to be argued. If I don't get my mask, if I get her mask on and I don't get mine on after, I can't take care of her. But it challenges us. And it's hard. But in order for us to become or to remain emotionally available without being emotionally compromised, we have to put our masks on first. Even when it goes against every core of our being. So I know that is a lot to think about, but going back to the skills we just reviewed, it doesn't mean that you have to forget about other people. You're still going to put the mask on the kid. But how can you make sure that you bring the best of yourself to everything that you do? Are you getting the sleep you need? Are you making sure that you are eating as well? Are you hydrated? Are you doing things that you enjoy so your cup feels full? That you're bringing the best of your energy to other people? Because people notice. People, what you're wanting when what we all want when we're present for others is not just to be present, but we want to bring the best of ourselves because people notice when we're not, right? So being able to take care of ourselves, even in small ways, in the things of, again, I go back to your favorite pajamas. Maybe it's in the shower, you turn the shower up for the last 30 seconds, just a little bit hotter, and you give yourself that 30 seconds because that 30 seconds is yours, and just be there. Maybe you use your favorite cup for your coffee. You open your shades because the sun feels good. The things that don't take an incredible amount of extra effort, but they do take some thought to put yourself first. The next time you're in traffic, you'll probably think of me and decide, is my radio staying on or off, or are my windows up or down? And those are just the little ways you can take care of yourself. And it can change the whole trajectory of your emotional availability when you get out of that traffic. So just to wrap this up, support's available. Just to remind everybody, New Hampshire Rapid Response Access Point is available to everybody. New Hampshire 988, so you dial 988 from any phone. And there is support for anybody who is having a mental health need or crisis. And my information is here. So if you want to get in touch with me, you're more than welcome to do that. The Community Mental Health Center. So if you are looking for mental health support, I would encourage you to get in touch with your insurance company, your primary care doctor, or your community mental health center. And then here is a flyer about our upcoming events. So we will meet June 25th. And we will be doing our next presentation. So hello, my name is Understanding the Whole Person Needs of Those with Intellectual Disabilities and Mental Health Needs. So let's get to seeing the whole person. We're not defining by disability or mental health, but making sure that we're really helping to understand who people are. We're asking the right questions, we're giving opportunity, and we're modeling for the community. So that's what we're going to be doing June 25th. But we welcome any feedback as well. So let me stop sharing for just a second, and any feedback or questions, and if not, we'll very much I thank you for coming, and we'll look forward to seeing you. We hope to see you all again in June.
Yeah, I have something to say, Julie. If you do want to call 988, call the longer number because they can actually come out to you. But if you call 988, they don't actually come out to you because DHHS and NAMI New Hampshire says that if you call 988, they don't necessarily come to you. I'm not sure why that is, but I have a chart on my refrigerator and it reminds me which number to call, the longer one, not the short one. Because otherwise, if you call like 911, you're going to get, as an autistic person, you're probably going to get shot and killed. But anyways, that sort of thing. But 988 it's a start, but it's not the whole picture. That's what I would say.
Sure.
Yep.
And okay, and 988 should they have a whole system of how to work with the crisis response centers at the different community mental
Yeah,
health
actually, I
centers as
saw.
well, so.
I was at the mental health center and they had said that if you have an out-of-state number, it routes it to the wrong state. That's not true anymore. And
It's
I
not.
say to her, "Excuse me, lady, you have incorrect information," but I thought that would be kind of rude because she wasn't talking to me. She was talking to another client. So I just kept my mouth shut.
Yeah, so it will route to, yeah, so if you dial 988, and 988 is a national, but yeah, so you can dial 988. It's a great, fantastic resource. And there was some great training that just came out for the crisis responders throughout the state. So, including on developmental disability support. So I'm glad they included that. Awesome. Wonderful. Well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate it.
You're the best. I really appreciate this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I wonder if the
No,
Nashville police
this is
are
great.
informed about things. About developmental disabilities, I guess, autism and that sort of thing. But I could always find out and maybe help them to be more knowledgeable about. Because I know NAMI does training for police, but I don't know, they do it for mental health, but I don't know if they do it for mental health / autism. I don't think so.
Are you talking about
That's what,
the police, Kelly?
yeah, the police.
Yeah, I'm
Because
not
sometimes the
sure.
police come, even though, like if you call 911, they come, and then the fire department will come or the ambulance will come second. And they're there first. It seems like they're always there first for some reason. Even when I had a gallbladder attack,
Yeah.
or maybe not
Those
that,
are,
when I was in Virginia, it was weird.
yeah, those are some protocols, but that's a great question for your community if depending on what your community has for training. I think those are some great questions. But I can tell you that the crisis response teams at the community mental health centers, they have the training through the crisis response project out of the Institute on Disability. So
Oh, I'm
they're
gonna
all
learn
getting the
about
same
that because
training.
I'm actually part of the advisory board of Greater Nashua. And I'm going to a meeting in June and we're gonna talk about crisis things. So I'm
Awesome.
sure I'll learn even more.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next month.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Julie. It was
Thank
great.
you.
Yeah. Bye.
Thank
See
you,
you
Julie.
soon. Bye. Thank you. See you soon.